What is up, sports fans, and welcome back to another episode of Pez's Picks. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by the man with the picks, Pez. Before we do that, a quick call to action. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe to the channel, Fans First Sports Network. We do appreciate it. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, give us a 5-star rating because it does help. We appreciate that as well. Let's bring in Pez now. Pez, what's going on?
Big week, Jeff. Big week for basketball, for football, for Pez's Picks. We're going live now with daily picks on Instagram and Twitter when they're there. You know, Jeff, you know our policy at Pez's Picks. We're not just pumping out garbage to pump it out. If there's no picks for the day, we ain't putting them out there. Plus, we got the draft, Jeff, and I mean you're more of an expert on that than me. And I did talk to one of my many teammates on Pez's Picks. Collective team we have globally. The fifth string punter from JMU told me he took odds that plus 200 Philadelphia Eagles take a offensive lineman in the first round. The favorite, I believe it's minus 130 or 160, is for the Philadelphia Eagles to take a cornerback. So interesting. Pez's Picks. We're not very experienced in the world of making draft pick plays, and that's not something that I've ever gotten into, but I'm excited for it. I mean, hey, you can bet on anything, Jeff. Next thing you know, we're gonna be betting on dog races again, like down in Hollywood, Florida.
Hey, Wheeling, West Virginia, where I grew up, they still have an active dog track. Still kicking. But the funny thing is, you can gamble on anything. There are a lot of NFL draft odds. You can actually place wagers on how many quarterbacks are selected in the top 10. You can do the gimmies, which are going to have to parlay to win some money because Caleb Williams going number 1 overall it seems like a sure bet. So you're going to get horrible odds on that bet. You're going to have to put them together with something else. We're not going to go into too much of that, but do you watch the NFL draft, Pez, just out of curiosity?
Jeff, there's years I've watched it. We had it in Philly one year, and that was exciting. I tend to flick in and out. And generally there's some NBA action on or baseball or what have you. So I'll flick by and I'll see, like you said, the first couple picks or first pick at least is usually decided and known. I'll check in, but especially when it's birds time, I'm going to pop in. What I like to do is kind of have 2 feeds going. I got a brother in Florida, Jeff. He's a 3 TV guy. He's got a TV for video games. He's got a TV for sports and a TV for random. So I don't have that kind of operation here at the home studio. I'd like to, but I would get divorced, but I do keep an eye on it. I think it's fun and I think it's great. We were talking off camera. One guy I'm looking for, and it's Pez's Picks. We got heavy into college football this year, and in my opinion, Mike Penix Jr. is the most underrated guy in this draft. I watched a ton of him, and as you know, Pez's Picks and our algorithm, we look at the quarterback position as number 1. I found him to be the most capable pro quarterback in this draft. He's got the size. He's got a better arm than anybody in this draft, can make any throw. He's a mature guy, knocks against him, had a little bit of an injury bug, and talking with Coach KT Smith of the call sheet, he claims he has a little bit slow wind up and, his release time's a little low, which I think is correctable, but I think he's a mature guy. I think of McCarthy. When I think of McCarthy, I think of a college quarterback who was good, but that game does not translate into the pros. I don't think his touch is there. I don't think his composure is there. I do like our quarterback in USC, though. I think he's got those things as well. Bo Nix, I'm a little bit suspect of. And, North Carolina, some of these other guys, I have questions about. And I think everybody's looking for the next C.J. Stroud, and maybe there's one out there, Jeff, and I'd like to see. I did read an article that you could see. Kirk Cousins went to Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken, right, Jeff?
Yes, that's
that you could see Atlanta trade up to top 10 to pick Mike Penix Jr. to take over after a year, and that makes sense to me.
Wow.
That to me would be a sensible move. 2 mature guys and a guy to learn from a guy, and I hope the best for him. I like that guy a lot. Let us down a little bit in the championship, but I love that dude.
Yeah, Mike Penix, the age thing does end up being a knock against them. You can say that he's mature and he's experienced and all that stuff, but it does sometimes go against a player. His injury past is not good. So there's a lot of people. Coach KT Smith is not alone when he says that his Michael Penix Jr., that is, his stock is skyrocketing right now. So
I agree.
it'll be interesting.
Well, when you think about it, Jeff, the NFL protects quarterbacks in a incredibly different way than they do in college football.
True.
Those injuries he suffered and those hits those guys take in college, they're illegal in the pros. I think about running quarterbacks, and McCarthy's getting some hype about he's got some speed. There ain't many guys running the ball at quarterback anymore. They're doing it successfully and without getting injured. And you think about Jalen, and you think about some guys that can do it, but they're built differently. They're built to run the ball. So I like pocket passers, Jeff, and I think we have some good ones this year. And I think it's good for the NFL. College got back this year to pocket passing in college football, and I love the game when you have a pocket passing quarterback and see the field opening up. And I'm pumped. I mean, we're almost at football season, Jeff. I feel like we just did the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe. Let's not talk too much about football. We're not going to talk about odds on the NFL draft. Let's talk about the NBA playoffs, which you said this earlier. I'll reiterate it. For those that might be listening to this podcast or watching this podcast that might say, I want to know what his picks are other than just the few that he gives on the podcast once a week. If you go to Instagram or Twitter, look up Pez's picks, you will see he's been doing daily picks during the NBA playoffs. 5-2, correct, Pez? That's accurate.
Last week we were 5-2 on the NBA, and we're proud of that number, Jeff. It's as a gambler and a former taker of gamblers' bets, I got worried for the NBA playoffs as a gambler. I got excited when those calls were coming my way, Jeff. It is a minefield, when you're playing 7-game series, especially the way the NBA is composed now. Guys sit out games, and guys are sitting out playoff games, Jeff. It's ridiculous to me, and I think home court advantage is a bigger advantage now than it's ever been in the NBA. We had every home team winning all weekend, and I think we're going to be adjusting our algorithms as we go forward with that, and that's something I think we're going to have to take into account a little bit more.
All right, so it is a 1-1 play last week here on the show, but we're here to talk about games tonight, Thursday night, NBA playoffs. The team that lets you down more than any other, the team that you touted as they cover all the time, the highest cover rate in the NBA, the Orlando Magic are down 0-2 in this series against the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Magic are still giving 1.5, but you're sticking with them. I can't believe it, but you're sticking to your guns.
Well, Jeff, the Orlando Magic, I mean, they're laying 2 now. That line has moved.
Okay.
When we look at the numbers about, in Pez's picks, we took them last week on the podcast. I took them again, Jeff, and some guys are beating me up a little bit on this social media, which is fun. Gambling, when you lose bets, your best friends tell you you're a moron. That's part of the fun. People like a loser more than a winner, Jeff, so we take it at Pez's picks. But as I explained to everybody on Instagram, we're not just sitting around at the bar with our jabronis, getting drunk, putting plays in, and, having fun, doubling down. We have an algorithm like we had in the NFL where we hit 63%. We had an algorithm for college basketball we followed, and I think we hit about 61%. Algorithms are not 100% guarantees in life. They're data-driven systems that you look for an advantage, and they're going to give you a better probability than if you didn't use them. So when you go into gambling like that, you're going to lose some games. And they're not systems you're going to pick, a winner in every game, but in regards to the Orlando Magic, the numbers are still there. They did shoot the ball about as horribly as a team could shoot. In game 1, they scored 83 points, 32.6% shooting from the field, Jeff. That's about as bad as you can get in pro basketball. 21.6% shooting from 3, about as bad as you get. Jeff, I played a lot of pickup basketball growing up. I think I can go out there and make 3 out of 10. It's almost like you're trying to miss. Game 2, Orlando Magic, 36% from the field, 25% from 3. So tells me Cleveland playing some solid defense. Also tells me Orlando probably off a little bit. The team averages, I think it's about 114 points a game, and I like them in this game. And when we talk about 7-game series and we talk about teams that are proud and if you're covering a lot of games in the NFL or in the NBA, like we talked last week, you're playing defense, you're rebounding, you're working hard. And I didn't see Orlando not doing that. I watched those games. They were off, and I think for the moment they were a little bit too much for some of the guys at home. Must-win game. You go down 3-0, pack your bags. Orlando Magic have to win it, and it appears to me Vegas agrees with this too. The line tells you something. It's something that gamblers say a lot. After going down and getting smoked 2 games in a row, for them to be favored by 2, I think the proper play is Orlando, and I think in a data-driven algorithm, I love them again. And that teams are going to let you down. And we talked about it in the NFL. There's weeks to lay off some teams that cover and weeks to not lay off. And tough with playoff basketball because every game's important, but you have to remind yourself teams are going to go out and they're not going to play well. And we saw it, ups and downs a little bit in this first weekend, and we're going to continue to see them. But if you stick to your algorithm, you're going to win more than you lose.
Yeah, I was stunned when you sent me your picks. I was like, wow, he's riding the Magic, and they have disappointed this playoffs, but we're taking the Magic, even though they're giving 2 points. I agree with you. Season's on the line. You're down 2-0, you go down 3-0, like you said, pack your bags. So we'll see how that pans out. Let's go to the New York Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers. Your 76ers, they are giving the Sixers, that is, 4.5 points to the Knicks, and you like the Sixers here in this game, and the Knicks are up 2-0 as well.
Well, not to go on a rant here, Jeff, and I'm a Philly guy. Grew up 15 miles out of that city. I was there this weekend. I'm a Jersey guy now, but I get my kid in that city as much as possible. I'm going to have to admit, I did not trust the process. I have been anti the Philadelphia 76ers since they pulled that move. I found it atrocious. I found it un-American, Jeff. You do not sabotage to do things in the United States. In sports, you go out, you try to kick ass every game, Jeff. That's the way I played sports. It's the way I preach it. I think for gambling, when you do that, and I think Joel Embiid has shown this throughout his career, they let him sit out his first season. His intensity has not been there in the playoffs. His preparation has not been there. That guy has been out of shape every season, injured. I think he missed 40-some games this year. So I am hesitantly taking the Philadelphia 76ers for a couple reasons. Another must-win game, another game that they're going to be at home. Sixers tend to play a lot better at home. I think they do have a little bit of pride, but I am suspect of Joel Embiid on that team. I like his skills, and I like some things about him, but I feel like Joel Embiid takes too much out of that team's offense. I don't think he plays in it. I don't think he makes guys around him better. Having said that, in this situation, I like them. My only concern is Brunson. New York won 2 games with Brunson playing pretty poorly. If he does not go out and light it up, I think the Sixers should win easy. In this situation, I love them tomorrow night. I think Maxey will have a better game. He was ill. He had some sort of virus or something. So I think the proper play is Philadelphia 76ers tomorrow, laying the points.
All right, so there are the 2 picks for Thursday night, the Magic and the 76ers. You want to talk about something, though, that a lot of people might not really have dipped their toes into in terms of in-game betting, but more so maybe just betting the lead at a quarter or a half. There's a lot of different options that gamblers have as it pertains to in-game betting. What did you want to talk about that on this show?
Well, Jeff, when you really get down to the heart of gambling, and I was talking about with some of my old partners, the Action Man, the Yogi, guys I respect to the highest level in the gambling world. I've been running with them for a long time. We remind ourselves every year. The NBA, it appears to be a star-driven league. It is a coach-driven league, Jeff. And, very rarely has a team won a championship with a weak or a poor coach. In the NFL, we've seen teams win Super Bowls with bad coaches. We've seen teams, where it's player dominated and the system is what it is and they inherit a thing. Coaching matters in the NBA without a doubt. And one of my favorite guys is Spoelstra down in Miami. And we're recording this show on Wednesday afternoon. So I told you tonight I'm taking the Miami Heat in the first quarter against the Celtics. They're getting 15 of the game. I don't think they're going to win the game, Jeff. Jimmy Buckets is out. Spoelstra, I think, is a better coach than they have in Boston. Creative guy. He's got Pat Riley with him. I think Pat Riley is the greatest NBA coach. I think he's even better than guys that won more championships. He's a creative guy. He's an intense guy. They value defense and they value changing things up, Jeff. So I read Spoelstra. They're going to try to get Hero some more looks. And I think what we're going to see with the Miami Heat tonight, they're getting 5.5 points in the first quarter. They're going to be running some picks. They're going to be running some plays to get him more open looks. They guarded the hell out of him over the weekend, and they did a great job. I think Hero lights it up in the first quarter. I would even imagine that the Heat win that first quarter. After that, I think the Celtics are going to be able to make some changes and they're going to adjust. And Celtics are awesome. I love Tatum. The Philadelphia 76ers should have Tatum. Jeff, every time I watch them, I think the number of championships we would have with that guy. But I think the Celtics right now are an awesome team. But first quarter bets, I think, is something to look at, especially with scrappy teams, especially with teams lacking their superstars with good coaches who are still playing hard. And sometimes a quarter it takes for another coach to kind of counter and make adjustments. And, kind of like what we talk about in the NFL with halftime adjustments, Andy Reid being the guru of that kind of thinking.
It's interesting. And I even have looked at golf as an example where you can do in-round bets. You can bet on who's leading after the first round. I mean, it's incredible, all the things you can bet on. So we talked about at the beginning of the show, the NFL draft and how you can bet on who the Philadelphia Eagles take in terms of positionally. You could talk about specific players. So if the Eagles were to draft Cooper DeJean from Iowa, which I know a lot of Eagles fans are excited about potentially having him come to Philly, that you can bet on that. You can bet on that. So it's going to be crazy. Any other plays this weekend? I know we've got the Zurich down in New Orleans, and that's a team event. I don't think you're a fan of that, but that's a PGA Tour event this week. Anything?
Not a fan of that, Jeff. And regarding the Zurich, I think it's tough to bet two guys. You're depending on two guys play. Regarding the draft picks, Jeff, I question the validity and I question even allowing that. There are many people in NFL rooms, right? And you've got guys and you've got guys that are connected. I know guys that are coaches in that league, and I know their relatives. So my question is, how can Vegas and how can books put out odds when I guarantee there are people leaking information, right? They're probably at 5, 6, top 10, maybe top 20. Half of those teams probably are guaranteeing who they're taking if they're there. So I think there could be some insider trading a little bit in those, Jeff. So I think it's something that FFSN should look at. We're going to get our legal department on this a little bit. I don't have any of those access right now, Jeff. I haven't asked anybody, but I caution about betting on that draft. Who knows what's going to happen, right? And, there's a lot of variables. Teams call, they offer deals, everything gets blown up. I think the best thing is to stick on, you can bet on anything. This is what the casinos and the books want you to do. Former bookies like myself, we talk to each other. I can't believe the racket they're running, Jeff. All of a sudden, sports gambling is legal, and they let you bet on everything. You couldn't get odds on draft picks. You couldn't get odds on parlays, and they want you to bet these things because they're not data driven, and your chances of winning are reduced. So, I think you stick to bets that are based on the most data that you can have. The more data, the more likely you can make a solid prediction that is based on math and based on likelihood, not based on flipping a coin.
Yeah, I've noticed. I want to give you an opportunity before we end the show to talk about this. You've mentioned this because of your buddy Legs, Parlay Legs.
Oh,
You've been saying on the Instagram videos how, and I've seen on Twitter, another failed parlay. Like, don't do parlays. There's a lot of people out there that are on the other side of that fence, and they say, I love doing parlays. I've won money with parlays. How do you kind of analyze the situation? Because some people are successful with them.
Well, Jeff, I spent time as a professional poker player for about 20 years. We would laugh at people. There are casino games aimed at drawing people in to steal your money. They post the odds. You can look them up. Your roulette odds are horrible. Your blackjack odds are horrible. Slot machine odds are horrible. Having said that, if you're looking at it as something fun to do, then that's an okay play. If you're putting a $2 parlay in, a $5 parlay in, that's fine. My man Legs, Jeff, guy's broke right now. Guy hasn't worked. The beach has been closed. I mean, that guy's playing for a Hungry Man TV dinner money. I got to throw him some pocket change here and there. He had 2 parlays he shared with Pez's Picks. We put him out there. 3 out of 4 he hit, and he sent me one yesterday. 2 out of 3 he hit. So I remind him, if you put in 4 plays, you hit 3, that's a good day. You hit 2 wins. If you put in 3 plays, you hit 2, that's a good day. To me, it's a bit of marketing, and it's a bit of using people's kind of looking for hitting the big lottery, and that's just something we don't partake in Pez's Picks.
Yeah, for sure. So hey, Pez is not a fan of the parlays. Legs, he still does. He's still doing them.
That's
He
our
can't.
guy.
He can't lay off. So there you go. All right, Pez. Any final thoughts? We call it a show.
Well, and I think a big thing with the NBA too, Jeff, is you got to watch these games, and it's important to watch the effort. It's important to watch how teams end. Last night, I saw Kevin Durant kind of shutting it down at the end of that game, and he looked distraught. His presser after the game, he looked like a beaten man. So these are things that we put into the algorithm as our unintangibles part of the algorithm. Where Kyrie Irving last night, holy moly, guy looked like he was 10 years younger again. He looked like he was playing with LeBron again. So teams that are playing good defense and are rebounding well, that have bad shooting nights, we look to put money on them in their next game. If you're putting in an effort and you're rebounding and you're playing defense, at some point the shots are going to come around for NBA players. So I like when a team plays poorly, or I like when a team shoots poorly but plays hard. That's an indicator to me that we take them in the next game. And these are little things that we look for. We're in the NFL. Teams that aren't scoring, Jeff, that's something you stay away from. The NBA, teams that aren't scoring, it comes around the NFL. You're putting up, 100 shots a game maybe. So these are little things in basketball that you can look for. The first quarter plays are something I think people can take a look at. And I've got aggressive gamblers, Jeff. They like hitting the first quarter play. They put in 100, and they tell me if I hit it, they double down then for the rest of the game or the other quarter. I'm not saying to go that far, Jeff. I think don't be greedy in these games. Put your plays in. Sit back with your popcorn, couple beers, maybe a couple White Claws, whatever you need, and you sit back and enjoy yourself. And pretty soon we'll be back winning that NFL money.
There you go. All right, good stuff. Great stuff as always. Again, follow Pez on Instagram and on Twitter at Pez's Picks. You'll find more picks than what we do on this podcast. Pez, as always, thank you for your time. Enjoy the games tonight. Enjoy the draft this weekend, and we'll talk next week. Take it easy.
See you.